Hello and welcome to Activating Magic. I'm your host, Darla Ledoux, and I'm here live and in person. This is my third in-person interview ever with Cheryl Stelte. I can't wait for you to meet her. Hi, Cheryl.
Thank you, Darla. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. So we're practically neighbors. So thank you for coming over to, share your magic with my audience. I just want to share a little bit about Cheryl. So she is the founder of the Azaria's Energy Healing Certification Program. She's a spiritual coach, master healer, best-selling author of 3 transformational books, which is amazing. One is about the throat chakra. One is about going from blocked to powerful, which we're going to get into today, right? And what's the third one?
The second book is Client Magnet.
Client Magnet. That's why I forget, because I feel like that's, many people talk about magnetizing clients, but not in the way you do.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to dive in. I would love to hear a little bit about your journey. And I just want to let people know, we will let you know how you can find Cheryl at the end of this after we get into some juicy nuggets, and then how you can get some resources from her. So talk a little bit about just how you got into healing work, first of all.
Well, it started 31 years ago, almost to the day. I think it was spring 31 years ago, and I was on the beach with a friend, and she was doing kinesiology on me, and we were waiting for the tide to go out so we could pick oysters. And my deceased younger brother's spirit showed up.
Wow.
Now, he had taken his life, and it was so profound. I will never forget it. I was laying there on the beach, and it was like a huge ball of white light was hovering above me, right above my chest. And I felt the most love, such intense love, overwhelming love, like I've never ever felt before. And then suddenly I knew it was him. And she channeled him, which she had never done before. That was her first time.
Okay.
And his
magic everywhere.
The long and the short of it was, he told me to start meditating. And I didn't know at that time, he had stated that he was bipolar and never diagnosed. And that was back in the days when a diagnosis for depression was becoming the in thing, and it was people were talking about it, and there were brochures and these questionnaires. And I had recently discovered I was seriously depressed, and I had started taking antidepressants. And very soon after that, after I started meditating, I started healing myself, and I got off those antidepressants against my doctor's instructions, so I don't advise anybody to go off medication, but I did, and I thought I'd rather meditate, and I never looked back. And my doctor continued to ask me questions for years afterwards. You do these little questionnaires, and he would just shake his head like, "Wow, okay."
That you were healed.
Yeah,
It was hard for him to believe it.
Yeah, he worked in the mental health department in our area. He was a GP, a general practitioner, but also worked very closely with mental health. And he said, "Oh no, you'll be on that medication for the rest of your life."
Yeah. So you're on the beach and she's doing kinesiology. Like, what was the context for that?
She was doing some clearing. She was clearing energy. So she would ask all these questions, and then she's doing, muscle testing. And she would say, "Oh, it's this person," and then she would say it's that, and she would clear it. And I had very little to say, and she would go on and on. And then when my brother's spirit was there, I was like, "It's my brother," and she's going on, and then she said, "Oh, this is about your brother," and then she said, "He's here."
So you had recognized that energy was present, and then she got it through the muscle testing.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Well, she felt it. She felt it as well. She felt the presence of his spirit. I mean, and I wasn't spiritual before that. I was raised Catholic, had stopped going to church. I believed in God, didn't have a practice, anything like that. So this was
How long
so
was
new.
he gone when this happened?
He was gone not quite a year and a half.
Okay.
So pretty
fresh.
recent. Yeah.
Wow. So you haven't looked back.
No.
And so when you started meditating, then did you go get trainings and things, or did
Yes.
the knowledge of your work come through in meditation, or some of each?
I did get some training right away. I went to a class and I learned one method on how to meditate, and that was very, very beneficial. But the teacher said, you just breathe in and out of, and you pay attention to the breath going in and out of your nostrils, sort of on your upper lip. And that's how it began. But my body wanted to breathe with longer breaths. I would slow down, and I would just want to breathe with these long breaths, and she would say, no, you don't do that. And so I completed that class. And then when my body wanted to breathe that way, I just allowed myself to breathe that way. And I had sort of conditioned myself at times to breathe with long breaths, because I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where the winters are extremely cold.
And your nostrils freeze. Same.
And I would be shivering, and you automatically want to start breathing through your mouth. You get so cold, and you start to, kind of pant, like when you're walking and that sort of thing. It's very intense. So as a kid, my mother always told us not to breathe through our mouths, that our lungs could freeze. So we had, some fear in us around breathing through our mouths. So I would breathe through my nose, but I would have to slow my breath down. But what I noticed, since I was about 8 years old, it would calm my body. The shivering would stop. So it was something I used every winter.
You were meditating when you were 8.
Walking meditation in the snow.
Amazing.
And then when I would run, in later years, and I would just breathe that way, and my endurance would improve. So it was kind of in me, or in stressful situations, to sort of do that. And I didn't know what I was doing. Scientifically, it's proven that the brain changes when we breathe with long breaths.
So I'm thinking of this instruction to focus here, and then the innate draw to have longer, deeper breaths. And I'm thinking here, does that keep you more in your head versus in your body, or?
It keeps you focused. So that's the number one thing. And, I studied multiple methods, and I've done a lot of training.
I'm sure.
Over the years. Like it was just one thing led to another, and one thing would work for me for maybe a decade or so, and then I would discover something else and keep going. So I have a lot of training, and I studied the chakras very soon. Like most of us, we discovered the chakras, but nobody talked about these things 31 years ago. Meditation and chakras and spirituality. Yoga was barely like it was becoming a thing, but it was still pretty new.
Yeah. When you say, like most people, we discover the chakras, talk a little bit about that, because maybe everybody hasn't discovered the chakras.
Yes, they're energy centers. And so we are.
And I would say actually, like, maybe has heard of them, but not practicing anything related to the chakras, right? If someone's an entrepreneur and they're like, oh yeah, that's cute. Like, what would you say about that?
Oh, you can, yes, well, I think we can think of the chakras as very lightweight. We can think of them that way, where I find working with the chakras very profound. And they are energy centers, just like in Chinese medicine, our meridians are energetic pathways. So we are energetic beings. We have thousands of energetic pathways, and the chakras are actually energy centers. So some people, there's all these people that say, oh, I have to balance my chakras are out of balance. I don't see that. I see the chakras in people, and this balancing business is, I don't know what that's about. It's peculiar, because what I see in the chakras, I see them as light. I don't see these pictures of lotus flowers with all the petals and the colors. To me, there's none of that going on. So I make up a story that maybe it was, first sort of discovered in India. So there could have been some guy meditating up in the Himalayas. And when you leave your body, when your consciousness leaves your body and you look down at your body, then maybe you can see the colors. But when I do chakra readings, I see light and I see dark. So if I were to do a chakra reading on you, and we must do that.
Okay.
I can't believe we haven't done that yet. And I see them as light, and then I see where there's dark spots. And those are our blocks. And then I can tell you what your block spots are about. And the chakras, we have different blocks, whether it's in the front, the back, the middle, the sides, the top, the bottom. It all means different things, and in each chakra. But the one thing that I would like to share about the chakras is that if you're going to meditate on the chakras, don't do what I did for 15 years. The first 15 years, maybe 12, I meditated on the chakras in the front of my body. That's where my focus was. So it's sort of like that first meditation class where I focus my breath here.
Yeah.
I would, we can see pictures that they're inside of our bodies, but most of us are so forward oriented.
Yes.
We see, we're not in touch with the back of ourselves. And so what I realized, and there's a whole story that goes with this, but we'll skip the story, is that when you focus on your chakras and you're meditating on your chakras, focus on the inside of the spine, on the ends, way back here, inside your body. So if we close our eyes right now and bring your awareness, focus your eyes, look at the inside of the spine, inside you, that's where they are. Because the Ida and Pingala go up along the spine, and the Sushumna's in the middle, and those chakras are right there. So when we're meditating on the chakras and we're in the front of them, we're only doing a bit of work. And so that discovery that nobody ever taught me, even when I learned different healing modalities, nobody ever taught that. So I teach that. Go inside your spine, because that's where the center of the energy center is.
Yeah, I can feel the difference in that. I feel like that's significantly different than just even inside your body, like in the center of your body.
Yes.
It's like where the cord would drop down on your spine.
That's right. And so even when I first started doing it, I played with it a little bit, and you can too. It can be hard to bring our awareness back there. Go behind yourself. Bring your focus even further back, and then sometimes you land right where the chakras are. So that's a very important piece. But anyway, they are energy centers that hold information.
And you said we're not trying to balance them. So what are we trying to do?
You're trying to clear the blocks. We are made of love and light. We are all connected. We are all part of Source, God,
so it's not
the
a
universe.
balancing act per se. It's just bringing the light in.
That's right. And clearing the blocks. So you can have distortions in the chakras, but having and this out of alignment. I've only ever seen one serious case of a chakra out of alignment, and it was a woman. I did a chakra reading for her, and her sacral chakra, the second chakra, which is right below the navel, was way out on the right side, outside of her body.
Wow.
I know. And I'm just looking at this. I'm like, is this real? What happened? And I asked her, I said, I have to ask you, your sacral chakra is not where it belongs. I didn't want to tell her the extent of it. I said, did something happen recently? And she said, I had an abortion yesterday. And the sacral chakra is that mother connection, that intimacy, intimate relationship, and that sort of thing. And so she was, pregnant, and then the baby's gone, and it was so traumatic for her. So I was able to bring her chakra back into alignment. But that's extremely rare. Your chakras are pretty much in alignment. It's sort of like if you imagine one of your organs, say your liver. Your liver isn't going to easily be out of alignment. we are made, and it's just like all the energetic pathways know where they're meant to be, but trauma can create significant damage.
So talk a bit about going from blocked to powerful. Like, what is the process that you teach people? Because I know you're really passionate about people being able to heal themselves.
Yes, we can all heal ourselves. And that's what I like to teach, is I help people on their way learn how to clear their blocks so they can step into empowerment. And so to begin with, I don't teach goal setting in the beginning, because you are going to create your goal. You're going to create all your goals based on who you are today. Right? So we don't know if those are the best goals, and usually they're not.
Right.
And so I put that aside. Intentions are very powerful, because intentions are a flow of energy. And so what I like to do when I start working with people, I did groups for quite a while. But when I used to teach a lot of meditation groups in person and that sort of thing, and that's great. But the healing, the original work, I like to go deep. I like big transformation. And so I like to start with just one-on-one, and always start with a chakra reading. And that'll really give people some clarity, some insight into not only what their blocks are, but what their superpowers are.
Right.
And give them more of a sense of purpose, where they're heading, and then we work together for a period of time, and that's it. And then I do a final chakra reading and let them know where they're at, and give them some homework assignments, and they're off to the races. And some people would like to continue to work with me, and that's fine. And there's lots of options in that way, but it's really clearing the blocks that serve you, clearing the blocks that are getting in the way of you accomplishing all that you're here to be and do.
And do you find people can clear them for themselves?
Yes, for the most part. And it's, sometimes even I need help. We're humans. We're all connected.
Yeah.
And so, yes, but there's so much. You can have major breakthroughs at home if you learn to do this work. And it's not that hard. It's just a matter of doing it.
When you were clearing depression, what was that like? Did you have someone work with you, or was that all self-healing?
Pretty much all self-healing.
Wow.
Because I didn't realize I was healing depression. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew what was happening in the moment, and I noticed.
What was it like?
Well, I would have memories from the past, from my early childhood come up, a lot of emotions and that sort of thing. And so what happens, let's just talk about trauma for a moment. Is that okay?
Yes.
So trauma is stored in the right side of the brain. It's in the subconscious. And the brain is very, complex, as we know. So when we use a full breath, it changes the brain function to the frontal lobal brain. Then when we're breathing right now, we're in the brainstem. It goes here.
Okay.
And we can access our subconscious. Yes, it's a right brain thing, but also by breathing fully, we can access it by changing that function of the brain, and we access through the medulla oblongata. And so what happens is, as children, we depending on how old you are especially, but back in my day when I was being raised, nobody talked about emotions.
No.
Your parents were not there to support you emotionally.
No,
that wasn't happening. And so we had, your average family that way. But what happens when toddlers, babies, even infants hold in their emotions, or they're not expressed, it starts patterns, creates patterns, and subconscious beliefs are formed that are not true. And next thing we know, we're in a life and we can't understand why we're behaving the way we do. We can't understand why we have the people in our lives that we have, and things are not going the way we want. And so the number one trauma that I would say all my clients have is they didn't have an ongoing emotional resource to help them process their emotions. And I mean, things have changed so much today. Look what's out there, all these books for kids. My kids are grown. I have a grandbaby. she's 3.5, and we talk about the emotions, and I bought all these books, and how does that feel in your body? So people are being resourced, and adults are resources for each other. So when that's traumatic, it's considered trauma when you don't have someone there to help you process. It's emotional neglect.
Right.
The trauma of emotional neglect. So I started to heal these emotions and these subconscious beliefs and that sort of thing. And I started meeting people and, working together, and started doing all kinds of trainings. And this was soon after I left my first marriage. And, I didn't know where my life was going. It was.
That's when the beach experience was? Okay.
Yeah.
And how old were your kids?
At that time, so we had been divorced about a year and a half, so they would have been about 10 and 12.
Okay.
10 and 12. And so I had my hands full.
So you're single mom.
Yes.
2 young kids.
Yep.
Taking up meditating, and all of this stuff is coming in.
Oh, yeah. And so I had a little room off my bedroom where I would meditate. And it just became the thing that I had to do. And it really worked for me. And then I trained in shamanism. I have my Reiki master. I mean, I've done a lot.
Talk about Azarius. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. What's the meaning of the word specifically? And then talk about your certification.
So Azarius, energy healing, it is a certification program. So I had a different name for that program when I first taught it. It was pretty long-winded and not great, but I wanted it to be, descriptive. And then I had one of my students in that program, once we graduated, she said, I'm telling all these people about what you do. It's so amazing. And she was a psychiatrist, and she was sending her clients to me.
Oh, nice.
A psychiatrist. And she found out years later that maybe she shouldn't be doing that, but she then I would give them back to her with all this healing, and then they would really make progress. Right. And so she wanted a different name. She said, you got to come up with a better name. I'm like, okay. And she said, and I need to belong to some sort of an institute with this now that I have the certification. So I thought, okay. So I meditated on it. And I thought, I discovered that Archangel Raphael, who we were merging with, we were tuning, and you don't have to merge or attune with Archangel Raphael, but you can. You need to merge with great beings. But anyway, he disguised himself as Azarius, this man, and came to Earth, and he met this guy, Tobias, and they just created all this change, and my brain just isn't going back there right now to what they all did, but it was really changing humanity. It was really about changing humanity and
healing.
Yes, absolutely, and all about healing. So I called it Azarius, and then I meditated on a name for an institute, and within really 2 minutes, it came Star of Divine Light Institute, because I believe that we are all stars of divine light.
Beautiful. So, tell some stories about the certification. So this psychiatrist got certified.
Yes.
When people go through your program, what changes for them?
Oh, well, they learn to feel energy. That comes along quite quickly. They learn to feel energy. And it seems like there's so many people that believe they're healers, or they know they're healers, or they say, I've had all these people tell me I'm a healer, but I just don't know. And it's just so empowering. And we start, there's step by step by step.
Yes.
And I teach them how to do the chakra readings. Now that piece takes practice. It absolutely takes practice, makes perfect to do it really well. But they're always shocked when they do so well with it, and just like me, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe because it starts to open doors for you. You can't know what it's like until you actually experience it.
Yes.
It's an experience.
I am Reiki 1 certified, and I remember this was ages ago. I was working as an engineer, and I actually hired my first life coach from a little flyer at the coffee shop where you pull the phone number off. And I called her up, and she was a life coach, and I hired her for some sessions because I was figuring out what to do with my career. And then she was doing Reiki training, and she did like art therapy. She did all kinds of things. So I would take all her little classes at the local art center, and I took Reiki. And I remember feeling the energy move through my body, and that was it was so powerful, and it was shocking. I'm an engineer, right? So like, what is this? But then the other student I was working on, her pain was gone. And I know I was so freaked out. I was like, okay, level 1 is enough for me. That was ages ago.
Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of engineers are very spiritual and don't know it. And artists, very creative. You know, engineers. I love engineers. I'm often attracted to engineers. So here we are. But yes, they're so surprised. And they're like, really? It's just like when I met my brother on the beach, and he continued to visit us over the rest of that weekend. You know, I went back home and it was like, was that real? Did it really happen? And so part of the program is I encourage them to practice together, all the students. So they get together and do exchanges to practice and see what it feels like and exchange notes. And so it's really comfortable. And then when the program is complete, then they start doing their practicum. And some people feel confident enough to get going before the end, and they can. You know, they can, and let people know that they're doing their practicum. So it's very empowering and really opens new doors. And they start to, because they're getting healed themselves, and they have one-on-one sessions with me. Because fear comes up for so many. Fear comes up.
What's the fear about?
So many of us, it's a common thing, and people don't realize it. They're afraid of their greatness. They're afraid of how amazing they truly are, how powerful they really are. But they see it as something else. Like I had one woman, I had a couple women who fear, you know, I just remember fear came up for them so much, wanting to drop out of the program and let it go. And
well, how much do you think is the conditioning of our medical institution and the programming that we can't heal, that we need a doctor or we need a prescription, or, I mean, we're inundated with ads
so much
for that.
Programming. I mean, we are all so conditioned. Oh my goodness, this is such a big topic because it's the conditioning. We all keep ourselves, we try and keep ourselves in sameness. In where we're at and all the humans, and this is how it is, and that sort of thing. And so it's our conditioning around we can't heal, or is it really possible, that doubt around it, but also that it really is the universe, God flowing through us, the love and light, that it's possible we can be these amazing vehicles. We can be that channel. And often when we feel this, I always say this, whenever you step into your light, the light of and you have that experience, it will always shine on the darkness. So then whatever needs to be healed, that's preventing you from moving to the next level, will come up. Yeah. And that's how it goes. I just texted with an old client. I was meditating one morning, and I just got, you need to contact this person. It's like, oh, this doesn't happen very often. So I texted her and said, you've been, on my mind. How are you doing? And she and her husband were both having problems, and she had stopped meditating. And so I just said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear. I'll be holding you in my heart now. How about if I do some distance healing for you? And she said, yes, please. And then she got back into meditating and doing her own energy work and that sort of thing. But what I got with her, she is avoiding her greatness. She's avoiding how amazing, and we can't see it when we're doing it.
Right.
I was guilty of the same thing.
Right. How did that show up for you?
Oh, Well, it showed up in the biggest way. Oh my goodness. I did a number of years ago, I'll do week-long retreats for myself, and often between Christmas and New Year's. So this one year I was doing a retreat for myself. And at the end of the retreat, I was told I was a spiritual teacher or spiritual leader and healer. And I was just like, what?
No,
and
thanks.
Here I was on cloud 9. I was like in spiritual ecstasy. I was feeling so great. And then I got this bomb and I had a meltdown. And I was like, it's impossible. Who do I think I am? There's no way. I don't have enough training. All my stuff came up. I'm not good enough.
Right.
All this, it was crazy. And it really messed my life up for a brief time.
The resistance or the message?
Both. The clashing of the resistance with the message, because a part of me knew it was true and it was so hard to accept it. Yeah. It was so hard. And I had spiritual teachers tell me that in the past. And even I've gone to some of these spiritual events, even concerts, and, different, if it's a really spiritual thing and these gurus are hanging around, they always stare at me. And I think, what do you see? What are you looking at? And then I get, they see my light. They see something.
They recognize you.
Yeah, they recognize me and they always stare at me. But they don't come and talk to me. So
I'm thinking of, you use the word sameness. So it's like you were fighting with the desire for sameness in some way.
It was, to really be seen. Throat chakra issues. I wrote the book, The Throat Chakra, Heal Your Neck Issues and Let Your Throat Chakra Shine, because I think I had more throat chakra issues than anybody I'd ever met, and that's part of it. The throat chakra, we think of it as it's speaking your truth, feeling seen and heard, and really expressing yourself well. That's throat chakra. But the highest level of the throat chakra is expressing all that you truly are and why your soul is here. Like full expression. Singing your song, as a soul in human form in this lifetime. That's the highest. And when I do chakra readings, I see this light at the back of the throat chakra. And it's connected down the spine to, at the back of the root chakra, I see a light. And I've never heard of this before, but
that's
I just
how it
started
shows up
seeing
for
it.
you.
Behind the root chakra is what I call the spike of purpose. And so I can see how well people are connected to their purpose, or even if they're not at all, or what's going on. Are they going through a transformation or a transition around that? And so that light runs up to the back of the throat chakra, and there's most people, I would say, 95% of us are slightly disconnected from that light of expressing all that we truly are. We are all so conditioned to stay in the norm. Yeah.
I was leading a group of clients recently, and I'm teaching about retreats, right? So I have this retreat program that I've been piloting again, and I don't even remember what the topic was, but one of the bullet points, just like a little note, is like, you have to remember who you are. Like, people see you. This is my theory. People do see you. You are seen. And then we aren't seeing ourselves. And so we're kind of blocking the reception of that. But like, I think my clients, their clients know they're magical, right? They're like, I don't know what it is, but there's something. I need some of that. And yet my clients, and I do this also, or I have done it for sure, will complicate things and be busy doing all the other things instead of just being there to receive that they see the magic. And so I was speaking about this, and all of a sudden my throat just, and I'm like, oh, okay, we got some throat chakra stuff going on here, and we all took some time to breathe into that. But so I wanted to ask you about why you wrote the book. Like, tell me a little bit more.
I didn't want to write that book on that topic. I was going to write a book, but I thought, how could I? Who am I to talk about the throat chakra? But what I realized, I wrote the book because I would say all my clients had throat chakra issues, and it's the hardest chakra to heal. And so the throat chakra issues have next to nothing to do with the throat chakra. They all stem from the root chakra.
From the purpose.
From the root chakra, which is, and well, we don't always have that spike of purpose when we're young.
Okay.
It develops over time, but we all have a root chakra. And the root chakra is primarily about feeling safe and stable in the world. That's number one. And then once we develop that, we can move into trust and faith. So you think of how that, so a lot of us don't feel safe and stable in being fully seen. So when I had my meltdown, I didn't feel safe and stable in being seen for who I truly am, you know, and for wearing that hat per se.
Did you feel safe and stable otherwise?
Oh yeah, my life was great.
Okay.
I absolutely felt safe and
So
stable.
it was like putting yourself out there in that way made it feel wobbly.
Yeah. And then so when we don't feel safe and stable, we don't have the trust and faith. We don't have that trust. We don't have the faith. And so that's what needs to develop. So to have a healthy throat chakra, you need safety and stability, feeling safe and stable in everything that you say, in being seen fully, and to have the trust and faith that you're all that you're meant to be. And it's great to be seen, to be received. You know, we all receive each other.
Yes.
And even as a coach or a healer, it's so funny, we can see the greatness in another. It's often that way, and they don't see it in themselves.
Yeah.
And then the highest level of the throat chakra is responsibility and accomplishment. So it's what the soul has chosen to be responsible for and accomplishing that. And when we have all that, that energy rides up to the throat chakra, and then you can't help but speak. And it's not just a linear process. It's sort of like flying an airplane. You know, if you see the tracks of an airplane, you want to go from Los Angeles to Chicago, the plane doesn't fly in a straight line. It's off course most of the time. It hits the line, but it knows the destination. And so it's sort of like that. Our stuff, whatever needs to be healed next, will keep coming up. And that's why I like to teach people how to do it for themselves, so they can recognize and continue to do the work and feel the empowerment that comes from the empowerment.
Why do you think the throat is the most challenging to heal?
Well, even physically, you think of it as a bottleneck. And around the world, we're all conditioned to conform, right? We're all How many parents raise their children to be the unique individuals that they are?
Right. Do you feel it is then about that, the expression, like wasn't safe to be unique as a kid? Or is it about the safety, like physical safety?
All of that.
All of it.
It's all of it. And the expression, physical safety, yes, we need to have that. I mean, you're not going to speak your truth if you're not feeling physically safe, period. You're going to be clammed up. After I wrote that book, my very first client, she, at my book launch, she heard me talk, and she was just going through a divorce of a very long time, like 35, 40 years they were married, and she realized she couldn't speak her truth to anybody. She said, when you were talking, I was ticking all the boxes. And I was like, whoa, oh my goodness. Whereas, and so I helped her, and within a short period of time, she was speaking her truth, and all her relationships were changing. You know, another relationship ended, but she was meeting, and she was it really helped her. But I would say the majority of women, it's mostly women, I do work with men, they're coming in for that higher level throat chakra work. Now, they all know that they're meant for more, but they don't know what it is. And they lack clarity. They come for their own inner clarity. I don't give anybody clarity. I help them get their own inner clarity, and they get that clarity by healing the blocks. And it starts in the root chakra. And then the energy comes out, and they start to have all these epiphanies of their own truth.
Yes.
Nobody can do that for you.
Isn't it so great? I just really appreciate that philosophy. And, you know, in my experience growing up in the coaching world, there's so many people who will want to be the one to tell you what your thing is, right? To sound smart, to prove their worth, whatever. And my certification is all about helping people access their own magic. And so I just really appreciate that perspective. And I think we need so much more of that, like the day of the guru.
Oh, yeah.
This is your purpose. This is your message. You know, I've been talking about through hosting retreat, for me, like my message just erupted in the space of the people in the room, right? It's like I found myself saying things like, oh, that's what needs to go on my website, as opposed to sitting home alone trying to get the right message or asking an expert to tell me what my message is.
That's right. Because you became a vehicle.
Exactly.
That's what Azaria's energy healing is. You become a vehicle. So I'll bet when you're up there and this is coming through you and you hear it sort of secondary, it comes through first.
Right.
You're being the vehicle. That is a shining throat chakra.
Yeah.
That is so part of it. And whether we're doing healing, coaching, leading a retreat, whatever it is, when we are the vehicle, we are always more energized. I'll bet you felt on top of the world after that, energized, great. You don't want to work with the healer, or you can, but as healers, you shouldn't have to prepare that, it's going to be exhausting. You have all these clients booked and you're going to be wiped out afterwards. No, because then you're doing the healing.
Instead
you're
of
not
source.
allowing you. It's you open yourself up, and it's miraculous what happens. And you'll say and do things that you wouldn't otherwise say or do. It's just in your knowing, and you feel the energy, and that's the magic.
And it feels good.
Yeah.
I say, just like you want to activate your magic because it feels good.
That's right, because it feels so great.
Yes. Okay, so we've covered a lot. What else did I want to ask you? There's so many things, I know. In the world right now, there's a lot going on. We don't need to, wherever you want to go with this question. Safety and the throat chakra and like all the division happening in the world. What advice would you have for someone who wants to stay connected to their truth, to speak their light during this time where maybe the root chakra is feeling wobbly?
Number one thing is we so easily move into fear. Fear is such a low vibration. So breathe through your fear. Feel it. Bring your eyes down. Let's try it right now, if that's okay. Let's bring our eyes right down into the root chakra. So go to the tip of your coccyx, the tip of the tailbone, and take some long, full, deep breaths. You can put your hand on your lower abdomen with your thumb at your navel. And let yourself feel your fear, your worry. Fear and worry. Worry is fear. If you're worrying, you're in fear. Allow yourself to feel it and let the energy of the emotion move through you. And so that's what you do. And it will lead you to, there could be other emotions. There could be other beliefs that you're not aware of. And so you keep breathing through it, and you'll get to the bottom of the emotions that you need to feel, and then you'll discover the truth. You'll discover the truth. And so what I do when I move into worry, that I'll then recognize as fear, is I will just breathe through it, and I can shift pretty quickly because I'm well practiced at it. And then I see that we are all divine beings. There's no denying it. And I move into a state of seeing differently. So when you said when you're working with your clients and it's about allowing others to witness us, and we allow others and others can allow us to witness them. It's easier to do that. Then I stay in a state of seeing others in their divinity. We are all made of love and light. It's true. There's really no separation. And we see more and more separation happening in the world, right? And so to move into that unity consciousness, the one thing that we all have in common is we are the love and light of the divine, period. And so today I went into town before I came over here, and I practiced everybody in their vehicles. I practiced seeing them all as love and light. And it's the truth. Get into the truth. All this other stuff that's happening is just mess. It's lies. It's not true.
Right.
It's all, working against us, creating more separation. So it's breathing through your emotions, because the more you can stay in calm, the more you can stay in connection with another. Relationships are important right now. Love.
Yeah.
Love. See what is it that you value, and do your best to stay out of fear and worry. And that raises, when you raise your own vibration to a higher level, even into joy or ecstasy, trust, that sort of thing, you raise the vibration of others. It's contagious. Yeah. It can't not be that way.
I can feel the sense of when there's that stillness through the breath at the root, that whatever would be present, whatever message each person would get, would be unique to them and would relate to what their true role is.
That's right.
At this time. Whereas, I saw someone make a post on Facebook that said, where are all the spiritual people now? Like, no one's saying anything. And it's like, because maybe there's just too much being said, right? Like if it's an immediate reaction to something happened and I'm going to go post my opinion about it from here, as opposed to the stillness here, there's, I think, at least for me, I've experienced there's a lot less to say.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And more like, let me reach out to a friend.
It's more about being.
Yeah.
It's just more about being and seeing that we are all connected. The separation is an illusion, and we can say all that we want. It's great if we can say what's true for us, but help a friend.
Yeah.
I drove by a homeless guy on the street. I was stopped at this intersection, and he was there with a sign that said "hungry." And I have, no cash. I have plastic, right? So you can't give him your credit card.
Right.
But I thought, well, he's hungry. So I rolled down my window and I said, hey, I'm sorry, I only have plastic. I don't carry cash with me anymore. I said, but if you're hungry, I said, how about if I just drive into town, I have to go into town, and I'll come back and bring you something to eat. What would you like? And he said, oh, I probably won't be here anymore. And his face was red. I think he was sunburnt from the sun. He said, I've been here all morning. He said, but thank you. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm a spiritual coach and healer. I said, how about if I do some energy healing for you and get you back in your, I can't remember the word I used. And he loved it, and his whole face lit up. I said, would you like that? He said, yes, please, ma'am. Would you please do that? I said, I will do that. So I've been,
okay.
And I said, what's your name? And he told me. And so I've been doing what I can for him.
Beautiful.
And it's being the best you can be, connected. Yeah.
So what are you most excited about in this next season?
What I am most excited about is discovering something that I don't know what I'm discovering. I'm so excited about it.
I know the feeling.
It's so cool. It's so cool. And
I feel like I want to say, if anybody is in that place of reinvention and in the pause, the sacred pause, maybe,
yes,
of like something, you feel the energy of it maybe, but don't have the words for it yet.
Yes. And it's, I'm going to be leading a breakthrough retreat at the end of this month, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I have a feeling something will come through there for me.
Because that happens.
Because, well, right? And so, but I'm I don't know, I'm cooking a lot. I'm making really cool things. I don't know, things are different, but it's spring, right? Mm-hmm. And the other day in my meditation, I had been sick. I got COVID, and then I caught a cold from my granddaughter. It's like, not fun. And it affects my mood. It affects my mood. Even my meditations are not the same. But I got the message from 2 sources within an hour that you're kind of like a seed. And when the seed cracks open, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not fun. But
Right.
then I feel like I'm this shoot. I'm growing something new.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be so much more related to my From Block to Powerful book, my 3rd book.
Beautiful. We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
All right.
I have a question that may be slightly self-serving, but I'm curious. I'm really on fire about this idea when we really can master the flow of our own transformation, delivering services to clients in a way that helps us grow, helps them grow. And it's, for me, I've experienced it as cyclical every time I'm hosting a new retreat, right? Like I kind of, okay, who am I being called to be this time? And I'm hearing you say that, you have a retreat coming up. And so I talk about it as a container, and like I'm in the container too, and I can relax into that container is going to inform me.
That's
like
right.
I don't have to stress about it. I don't have to micromanage my transformation. It's going to happen. And I'm hearing that from you. And I've been talking about this, encouraging people like, hey, just relax into like, this is who you are as a leader, and like source will carry you. What's been if you were to put a plug for that idea, or how mastery of that has helped you?
Well, I did so much more work in person, and then when I was in Canada, and then I moved here, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
As soon as I launched, I couldn't even launch my book in person and do my book tour like I wanted to do because we had the pandemic. But what I have noticed is it comes through my clients. They start asking, I start seeing similarities in them. But even the first Azarius Energy Healing program I had, all these people asking me, when are you going to teach what you do? When are you going to teach this? And I would just think, well, I don't know, because it's a compilation of so many things. And then this one woman, Stacy, that was it. Stacy asked me, and Stacy knew she was an energy healer, and I knew I had to develop a program. And so poof, I did. And, and it was
and
fantastic.
then there it was.
And there it was. And so it's like that. So I listen to others, those that I'm working with. And it's really when we get to the highest levels, what I see in a lot of my higher level clients, and even other ones, but more people that have worked with me, they become the teacher. I'm like, oh, you're teaching me something here. Right? And it's just
beautiful.
So fun. It's so great. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because I think, the more I talk about it, it's like, why do we have people write in a journal all the things to figure out their perfect message or their perfect business? It's like, serve people and they will ask you. And every piece of, the books that I've written have come from people saying, I want you to teach me this. I'm like, oh, let me figure out how to do that. Okay, that works. Let me write that down.
Yes, and be in your presence.
Yes.
Most people, it just cracks me up. I find it so humorous. Most people that come to me, I say, oh, how did you find me? I don't know. I heard you speak somewhere. And I said, oh, what did I say? I don't remember what you said. But there was something about you, and I knew I had to meet with you. And they all say the same thing. So it's about, they sense, we're all transmitting. We're all transmitting all the time. So when you are in the truth of your being, when you are all that, people will know. So I love that. Sort of touches into the Client Magnet book a bit, but that's sort of how it is. So I don't worry that much about my messaging. But on social media, I don't do a lot of social media, but that's where you're printing, or unless you're doing reels or that sort of thing. You can do it. But here we are. We're transmitting here.
We are.
We're transmitting.
So I like to think of this podcast hitting the ears of people all over, maybe in small towns. I grew up in a small town. Nobody around me was necessarily spiritual or really vibrant. And so I imagine this hitting the ears of people like that, where they're being awakened and maybe they look around and they don't have the resources, or they're not sure that it's even safe to tell people My brother came through on the beach, for example. What would you say to someone like that whose magic is just starting to
Just
activate?
call me. You can go to callwithcheryl.com. No charge. Callwithcheryl.com.
CH.
Yes,
Cheryl.
CHERYL. Callwithcheryl.com, and I will understand. And it's the other thing is, know that you're not alone. You're not alone. You can call in spiritual support, especially deceased loved ones. Call in your deceased loved ones' spirits to support you and keep checking with them, especially a grandma or someone that you know just loved you unconditionally. It helps so much because we all get all this support and we're not aware of it. And or reach out to someone that you trust, someone that you really can trust. It's worth it. Connect.
Thank you. Any parting words?
My parting words are, you are all powerful beyond belief, powerful beyond what you can even imagine.
Beautiful. We'll put that link to the call with you in the show notes, as well as all of your books and your main website. Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Thank you so
Darla.
much. I'm so glad that we're neighbors. And, you know, speaking of people who might be in a small town, we're in a small town. We got connected by a mutual friend who doesn't even live nearby.
In another state.
Yes. So magic is everywhere.
It's everywhere. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Darla. So honored to be a part of this with you. Your podcast is amazing.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode.